Welcome to Getting Defensive Thursday edition, presented by Gridiron Ratings. Your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. I am your new host, JJ Wenner. You can find me at Twitter, at JJ Wenner, and also manning the main handle at Ride or Dynasty. Now, joining me tonight is Gridiron Ratings senior IDP analyst and a true innovator of IDP, the IDP tipster on Twitter, Gary Van Dyke. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing great. Ready to get this done on this AFC North.
Ready to dive right in. Also with us tonight is one of the brightest minds. He's the best writer at IDP, guys, but don't tell anybody I said that. And he's the co-host of the DF Triple S podcast. You can find him on Twitter at OrangeMan3142, Johnny the Greek. John, what have you been working on, brother?
Hey, nice to be here. Nice to meet you in the flesh, sort of, through the virtual landscape here. Yeah. No, things are good, man. The huge. I'll be doing the monster again this year and streaming corners because us degenerates got to have our cornerbacks. And yeah. I mean, Joey probably wouldn't appreciate the compliment, but I do. I appreciate that. So much obliged.
Well, we don't have to tell him, right?
No, he'll never know.
Awesome. Good thing nobody will see this, right? This isn't live.
Nope, not at all.
Well, before we kick off, remember to subscribe below for a chance to win the Gridiron Ratings Playbook, the only resource you need for all of your fantasy leagues. We will draw one winner for every 25 new subscribers we get. But before we do anything, let's check on the news. Now, gentlemen, the Raiders signed Gerald Mccoy, who missed all of last year with the leg injury. John, is there any chance that he pushes Quentin Jefferson or Jonathan Hankins maybe for some playing time?
Oh God, yeah, Hankins, yes. Hankins barely saw any time, last year and really ever. He never became what people thought he was going to become. And there hasn't been like an IDP relevant defensive tackle on the Raiders in a while. Yeah, I mean, if you can get him as a DT 3, 4 in those crazy, stupid, deep leagues we're all in, absolutely. I'd give it a stab. I mean, if he gets 70%, 60% of what we saw, even a few years ago, that's a great defensive tackle right there, IDP wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in DT required leagues, any talent you can find, you got to grab and stick on your roster. Now, it seems, Gary, that Gruden isn't quite happy with the defense. They had KJ Wright in for a visit. Now, after posting 86 total tackles and 2 sacks last year, do you believe that he could step right in and start for Las Vegas?
Probably. I think if they're having him in for a visit, they're going to test those waters with him. I mean, Littleton really bombed last year. I guess he's not doing all right, or he's not doing too bad now, but yeah, I'm just really concerned about that whole unit. Morrow, you've been checking it out, and they apparently love Morrow this year. Finally, they're going to give him some respect, and they got Nick Kowalski or whatever his name is running with the second team. So maybe Littleton wins the job. Maybe Littleton's not on this roster. I don't know. Wright could probably play. I think Wright's still got a couple of good years in him.
Yeah, he definitely has some skill. He appeared in all 16 games. And if there's anything you want from a linebacker, it's health and somebody who plays a lot of snaps. Skill level sometimes you can get around that as long as they're getting the opportunities. Mm-hmm. Now, Gary, you and I were saying that we have not had a lot of chance to check out the game. John, what is going on in the first game of the season?
Nothing. Seriously, nothing. One touchdown, Kalen Ballage, bullshit from my McFarland early preseason DFS shares, so I wasn't happy about that.
Wait, you're playing DFS right now?
Yeah, I've got issues. I've got
I love
issues.
That's fantastic.
But
A
Danucci,
preseason game, the Hall of Fame game.
hey, it could have been money. It's not. It's
Yeah.
money to DraftKings instead. But
No,
Danucci,
but-
last time I looked up, had 1 completion for 2 yards and 1 pick. So that's what we're looking at.
So that's like a career game for Danucci.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Oh God, it's
Oh.
brutal.
Yeah, preseason gets ugly, especially when they're not playing starters. Well,
Yeah.
all right, Ramblers, let's get rambling and jump right in. Tonight starts our divisional dive series where we're going to take a look at the players you need and the players you need to avoid in all of your IDP leagues. And there's no better place to start than in my least favorite IDP team. And we were talking about this before we started to record. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Pittsburgh is known as a 3-4 defense. That's sort of written in football stone. Although they have a 4-man front for the most part. What is the problem with the way the position designations fall in Pittsburgh, John?
Oh God, how much time you got, buddy? So
45 minutes. Go.
yeah. So I mean, if those edge guys, if you don't have an edge position in your league, or they're not, a DL designation in sleeper, which we play some sleeper. That's not all my leagues. That's not even the majority of my leagues. I do a lot of MFL. I do a lot of Yahoo redraft. I'm on Fantrax right now this year. Like, that's a great site too. They actually have an edge position. ESPN has an edge position. If you don't have those things, though, the value goes down because as a linebacker, you're relying on sacks and forced fumbles and splash plays, and those are inconsistent. Tackles happen all the time, every game. They're always going to happen. I'd rather have that solid tackle floor guy and know I'm going to score points every week rather than relying on some crazy splash play that happens, only so often. So that really just takes out all those 3-4 outside linebacker guys immediately. And then we were talking about this too. You got Cam Hayward as a DE. Sure, he's a decent DE if that's his designation, but as a DT, he was a top 5 guy, and that position drops off a cliff. So when we're losing defensive tackles, that hurts all of us. So not great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still what they need to do is they need to move on, have edge rusher and interior defensive lineman. And that instead of DT, instead of DE, that would be the perfect case scenario for us IDP fans. I mean, that would get the max out of both those situations because you do with all these 3-4 defensive scheme teams, you just lose those. Most of those, unless that scoring is tweaked just right to favor them really hard, or you're playing them in, I don't know. Like I said, you got to get them in an edge rusher position. It just doesn't make any sense to have all that talent go to waste during the game.
Absolutely. You look at TJ Watt as a perfect example. And a few of my leagues where I use true position, we have edge defenders, he's top 2. But then you look at where he's just a linebacker, he's barely a linebacker 3, right? He's finishing LB 30, LB 35.
Well,
I mean,
you're
that's
watching the game. You're watching the game, and you're watching TJ Watt just get like 2 sacks. He's got like 8 tackles, and you're thinking, and I can't use them.
Yep.
It's just you can't use them unless you play an edge rushing. Folks, I'm telling you, try something out like that wherever you can in any of these leagues. It'll make a difference in the feel of the game.
Yeah, it kills the price too. Sorry to interrupt, but it kills the price. So yeah, TJ Watt in a startup is going to cost you a lot of cash, right? I will pass on that and grab the Alex Singletons and Tyrell Adams of the world because I'm paying attention and I know when they're available, and I will get basically the same, if not better, production because I'm going off a tackle floor instead of relying on sacks or splash plays for free for the cost of a mouse click instead of wasting a ton of capital in a startup. So that becomes an issue too.
Absolutely. And another big guy on the team who you talked about, Cam Hayward, Stefan Tuitt. Stefan Tuitt had a great year last year.
Yeah.
People.
If he was a defensive tackle.
Oh,
they need to stop saying out on. I keep seeing it, but I guess I haven't seen it for a couple of days. But somebody is saying Tuitt's going to have a breakout season, folks. He broke out last. Yeah, he broke out last year.
Didn't he have? He had 11 sacks.
Stop. His value to me is. I mean, I find it hard that I don't even think I did. I think I ranked Tuitt a little bit higher than Hayward.
Well, he definitely had a better year last year than Hayward. Yeah. They sort of reversed roles last year from their previous careers, but both of those guys on the inside, because what are you going to do? Are you not going to double TJ Watt? No. And now you have Alex Highsmith on the other side playing out of his mind.
I think Ingram will be more effective.
Do you really?
Getting to the quarterback, I think Ingram will be more effective. I think in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Highsmith had good like pressure rates and stuff. It just didn't land. I don't know. I think it's a good thing they got Ingram. Like that's more firepower for him for sure. I'm probably not.
Right. We got to go back and look at what Highsmith ended the season with. What do you have? The Bengals? Worst offensive line in the whole.
Right. And the production wasn't there. Just the pressure rate was there.
Yeah. When he actually doing the start sit charts that I do, when he actually had the opportunity because the matchup was there for him to excel, he did not. He just did the same. He was the same player. It didn't matter offensive line was good or not, or points allowed or anything else. Believe me, he actually did not live up to the stature he should have when he should have. So I question it. Why else would you bring in Mark Ingram?
Melvin. Yep.
We know why they couldn't keep Dupree. He was priced out. Dupree's only 26, and playing from that side of the defensive line all that time, he did really well. I mean, he's just hitting his prime, so I expect he'll do real well down in Tennessee.
Now, looking at the linebacker room, Devin Bush has a lot of hype surrounding him. His first 3 games last year that he got injured playing in the 4th game, but he was doing horribly last year. I think he was the LB 41. Are we thinking that he's capable of a top 12 season?
No, I only have 1 share. I'm not super into it, and that rookie year too, like, yes, there was the transition from college to the NFL. So they were managing his reps. But by the end of the year, that never fixed itself. Like, and we saw that with guys like Roquan, guys like Tremaine. Like by week 13, 14, 15, 16, they were up to where they should be with snaps and production. And even Patrick Queen, guys like that. Like, we've seen guys be able to do that. Devin Bush was not able to do that.
And consistently, his ranking, if you look at PFF, if you believe that, but he wasn't performing well in coverage. And that's sort of why you want a speedy linebacker.
It's pretty disappointing. I don't own any of them. I won't draft him. I don't want him. I just don't trust him. I mean, I've lost trust in his capability of being the guy that should be. He's not even getting it by default. It's so wild to watch him sit there and he plays a couple of good games, but then he struggles and then instantly he gets hurt. The next guy up, or even the next 3 guys up that play that position, perform on average.
Right? Yeah. Last year, Williamson,
what's going on with that?
Yeah.
So whether the snap counts, I don't know. I just don't trust Bush. He's not on anywhere. I'm not suggesting him for anybody.
Now, Robert Spillane, 3rd year out of Western Michigan. Are we stashing him? I mean, he's going to have a starting role, supposedly. Is he worth like a last round pick just in case he does perform?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's all we're doing this time of year, right? Because we don't know anything yet, right? We're just taking educated guesses, stabs in the dark, and hoping we're right and it pays off. I'm much more, yes, I have my guys I like. I stash them, go with God, son. But it's like I'll adjust quickly in the season because I have to not look like an idiot writing articles and stuff. And that allows me to like instantly get who is going to have that production, who will have those, fruitful positions, if you will. So I'm not super worried about it. But your average fantasy player, yeah, sure, take a stab at it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have the mentality to churn your roster. I know something that I fell into a habit when I was a younger dynasty player at IDP. I would fall in love with those late round picks, the sleepers, and just keep holding on, waiting for the moment. And you have to churn that. By the end of the first week, whether or not a player is going to be really turn out. You got to be willing just to cut and move. Are there any other deep stash players that we're keeping on this team?
Deep stash. That's a good question.
I don't think.
I mean, I'm going to throw one out there for cornerback required leagues.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead. You can take
We're
a shot.
thinking. So I don't even know who it is, but Hilton's gone. Whoever steps into that role, his role last year involved a lot of blitzing off the edge, and that you don't see that a lot in corner, right? If you have a chance for a sack as a corner, like that's huge. So whoever that guy is, I'll take a stab there.
Yeah, I've thrown a couple late round, a few dollars in waiver wires on Cam Sutton. I'm hoping that he steps into that role.
Yeah.
Because I never invest in cornerbacks.
I don't talk about them. Almost like Dirty O. Almost.
Oh, almost.
Who are you guys keeping? Who are your two most important on this team?
I had to go with the reason I started off the conversation the way we did is because most of the leagues I play in are true position.
Yep.
And they have positional scoring. So for me, I love TJ Watt. I have to roster TJ Watt because he is a top 2 edge rusher. My other guy is Stefan Tuitt, right? I think he's a little bit younger than Cam Hayward. He had a slightly better year, and I think he gets less double teams. He gets less attention, and he's a disruptor. And I really want a disruptor at defensive tackle for my squads.
Nice.
What about you? Is there anybody in that team you're targeting?
So yeah, I mean, if the league is right, Watt, absolutely. I never get him though, because he goes so crazy early. You know what I mean? So I just never get him. But if he's there, sure, I'd take Watt.
You want him on there just to see his name sparkle.
Yeah, right. He's one of those it's like Jamal Adams. I never get Jamal Adams because I'm not going rounds plural ahead of where I should to get an IDP safety that I can grab for free during the season and be fine. But yes, I would grab TJ Watt if the league was correct for that, if the setup was correct. And I just checked. Cam Hayward is still a defensive tackle in Yahoo. So for all my redrafts, I'll have Cam Hayward.
Right.
That's fantastic.
See, I like Tuitt. But you would have to be playing like ESPN with the edge rusher. They make him a defensive tackle. I guess if Hayward is Tuitt on Yahoo.
Oh, that's a good question.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
they should be. But either way,
I know in
leagues that I can, and I'm getting him. Even in like deeper formats, maybe starting 2 DL or something, I'm still putting them in that 3rd or 4th spot if I feel pretty good about it, for bye weeks or whatever, working them where I could,
Yep. He's a DE.
Dang. See, yeah. Come
So,
on, IDL people. Let's get some IDL.
IDL. So, anything else about Pittsburgh we want to talk about before we move a little bit towards the coast?
Overhyped. Minka Fitzpatrick. Yeah, yes. Sure. He had a better season last year, but he's still massively inconsistent, unreliable, not someone. So there are certain safeties going into Monday night. If I'm down 10, 15 points, I'm feeling pretty good. Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, Jordan Poyer, guys like that. I'm feeling pretty good. Minka Fitzpatrick, I am not. I am scared. I'm not feeling good.
Yeah. I remember coming out with rankings last year, and I had him down a ways, and some guy he got a little bit offended. Got a hold of me on Twitter, was talking, and I was like, all right, I'm talking him down off the water tower, buddy. But, yes, he's a very talented NFL player.
Yes, he's a great real safety.
yes. But for IDP right now, he's just not there. He did have a better year.
Yeah.
A lot better year, but I think he did it in plays again. If you're counting on interceptions and such, I think he did get a little bit boost in the combined tackle department. Yep. Okay, now do it again and give us a little bit more.
Right.
But he still didn't finish in the top 20.
Yeah.
So if you're not going in the top 20, I can find somebody.
No.
Right.
I can find you on the waiver wire. I don't have to spend any capital on Minka Fitzpatrick, and I can get that same production.
Right.
Exactly. Daniel Sorensen, Cameron Curl, Donovan Wilson were all free last year.
Yep.
Like, I'll take that. Yeah.
Well, the team is built. Here's how the team's built. That interior of your free safety, your strong safety, your middle linebacker, they don't have to be so great. Your corners have to be on cue, and so is your defensive line, which you've got one of the best defensive line, arguably the best defensive line, or front seven, whatever. Let's see, is it front seven, front five? Front five, So, I mean, realistically, you don't have to have, a lot of production there. I think when you have that rush that you've got, that's why the corners come and play a lot. I don't know. Either way, Fitzpatrick's not getting it completely done yet, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another year. Let's see what he does. He's got to repeat.
Yeah, I don't think he will.
Yeah. And Edwards, the strong safety, Edwards, that's about worthless.
Oh,
Edmonds?
Edmonds, yeah.
Terrell
yeah,
Edmonds.
He doesn't even play like as many snaps as we thought he would. Like he maxes at like 70, 80% of snaps, and they drafted him with pretty decent capital. So that always surprised me. Like,
no. Now they're rotating people and doing those, apparently having that third nickel on the field all the time or whatever. 3 defensive back or 3 cornerbacks.
Well, I mean, we are at that point where the nickel is the base defense in the NFL.
Yeah. Right.
It's a passing league. Yeah.
So the days of saying somebody's a 3-4 or 4-3, that's all gone.
Yeah.
Everybody plays a nickel most of the time.
I like reading descriptions when you look it up because they'll give you, okay, they're a 3-4, but they spend most of their time in a 4-3 or just the opposite. It's like, what? Or in the nickel package, it's basically this is a nickel package defense. All right. Just say what it is.
All right. Well, not to leave Pittsburgh too soon, but I want to check in on Baltimore. John, who is your most important IDP player?
You guys are going to hate this. Well, actually, JJ, you might like this. Gary's going to hate this. My 2 most important IDPs are Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. And because Marlon Humphrey is going to cost so much this year, I've seen him going with like top tier safeties because everyone thinks that those 8 forced fumbles are somehow repeatable, which they're not. But that's fine. Marcus Peters though, it costs nothing, and him and Humphrey were 2 of the best streaming corners last year. Like period. Like if they had a semi-competent pass game coming to town and it wasn't like a hurricane outside, you were looking at excellent production from either or both often as well. So I love those guys. Those are my 2 favorites on the team. What do you guys think? Who do you guys like on there?
I have no argument. I'm not a big corner guy, but I've been trying to get into the corners this year a little bit, checking some stats, and I mean I've had them in some drafts. Somebody suckered me into a huge IDP draft, making me read about corners, right, John?
Yeah. I did make you do that.
Yeah. So I'm like, corners. I had to put corners in IDP incentive this year because it's like the flagship for me to watch all the my league, right? Yeah. And I had to put corners in there because I just wanted to see what the production was, comparably. So yeah, I can't argue with you about that though. That's probably your best investments for the ADP, a little bit for Humphreys maybe because I've seen him high.
Yeah, but he's high. The safeties are a good deal too, but I'm sure we'll talk about those. Yeah.
What's more important is the front defensive line and the linebacker. I mean, that's replaceable production elsewhere. So it definitely, somebody to target. I'm not real high on Queen this year at all.
Either.
Yeah. Yep. There are a lot of people that are paying out the rear end. I guess that makes it worse. Each time I see somebody taking him in the top 10 or something like that, I'm like, why? So,
well, are there any linebackers you are interested in?
There? No.
Oh, I like to say Harrison, the Ohio State product, second year guy, but the way they use that second linebacker, it's like LJ Fort played it most of last year, and he had like 35% of the snaps.
Right.
So it's
right. There is no second linebacker.
Right.
Exactly. Right. And in Queen's 29 point whatever PFF grade means that he's still on his rookie deal and he's got high draft capital, but if he doesn't figure it out quickly, he'll go the way of Jared Davis.
I think we just covered the overhyped.
Yeah.
There you have it. Are there any players that you're stashing? I mean, I'm a fan of Chuck Clark. I think it's just because it's like an all-American name, and you're just like that's a safety name, right? Just lining up Chuck Clark. He's gonna hit
Clark. You. Oh man,
he was actually one of my breakout calls. When he did during the season. Actually, as soon as who'd they lose?
It wasn't Earl Thomas. It was someone else.
Tony Jefferson.
Yes.
As soon as he went down, they handed the green dot to Chuck. Said, "Run it."
Yep.
And I mean,
and he ran it.
Fine.
He did.
Yep. He did. Yep. I got lucky on that. Well, I can't say I got lucky, folks. I actually told people go get him. It was on purpose, but
you were banging that drum early and often. Yeah. Elliott too. Deshaun Elliott cost literally nothing, and like as a safety 3 or 4, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah. Get the right matchup. You buy a weak play. Get a solid one. Get some decent production. Yep.
Yeah, JJ, who are your guys on this team?
Like I said, I love Chuck Clark. I mean, man, I still have a soft spot for Calais Campbell, but that ship has passed.
Yeah, he's old.
So thanks for the memories, but I'm moving on. They don't have a lot on that defensive line that I really want to invest in. I don't know if I trust anybody to get enough production. Well, and again, it's sort of the same issue that we're talking about with Pittsburgh. Calais Campbell plays more defensive tackle, but he's listed at defensive end. Right. So if you have an IDL, he might be somebody who might have some late end value.
Yeah.
There's a couple of sites out there. They'll list him as a DT. It just has to be like ESPN. It's just he comes into play sometimes. So, but
he's getting old too. But I'll tell you a guy. Especially if it's they are a 3-4 as well technically, even though I read it's a 1-4-6 today doing my research, which that's weird, but okay. So Derek Wolfe, if he is like a DT somehow, like I could be into that. Like all those years in Denver, he was for me often an injury guy, a bye week guy. He was still
injured a little bit last year, I think.
Yeah, but in those stupid deep leagues, he's always out there. He's always available. He can always get you something. He's been decent in the past.
Yeah. And that was the great thing about Derek Wolfe. He always put up something when he played, right? You never had to worry about the goose egg with him. No. What do you guys think about Odafe Owa, the rookie out of Penn State?
I was reading up on him today. Yeah, he's making a little bit of an impression, and he's doing it against a offensive line that's pretty darn good too. I mean, they're not lightweight. So, I mean, I think that he would definitely in these edge rusher league type things. We're looking one of those scenarios like TJ Watt or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's as talented. You can't say that, but what I'm saying is I might stash him. If I was in an edge rusher league, had the room, I'm liking what I'm hearing at least.
Yeah, if the setup is correct, right? Like, so best ball is obviously taken off this year. Pittsburgh touchdown, by the way. Cowboys are going to lose. So we're getting started with the Cowboys season early with the losing.
Oh yeah, you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. But no, if the league is right, like those best balls, like I'm sure Owe or however you say his name will give us a couple big weeks at some point, right? Like with that, you don't have to. I
wouldn't even consider him for redraft or for redraft.
Yeah,
so
but it's perfect for best ball. You don't have to guess. Yep. You don't have to guess when that's going to happen. You just get it. Yeah.
You just I got you.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of best ball for IDP. it's a lot of fun because you can just, you do your research, you pick all of your guys, and then you just let them play and see who rises to the top.
I don't know. In this 30 rounds that we've been doing of John's, it's 30 rounds, 18 teams. Okay. So I've been throwing darts at the screen for like the last 4 picks. Right, John?
Yeah. I took a guy on a 10-game suspension today because I want those last 7 games. I took Bradley Roby because I want those last 7 games.
Yeah. I wish punters
That's
would have been available.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, Gary.
Sorry.
You don't mean that.
No.
You don't like offense, much less punters.
Right. Oh,
don't try to fool me on that one.
Dirty O. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else about Baltimore we want to talk about?
I mean, I love it that everybody's on Chuck Clark. He's definitely an own, but man, I wonder if he's going to be able to repeat what he's done the last 2 years. I like to see it. I like to either for one thing to happen or the other. Take the next step forward. Hopefully Queen's wearing that dot. They rush so much. They rush 3, 4, 5 guys sometimes. And they're usually always getting somebody in the backfield. That's what made Juden down there the one year. I don't know what happened to him last year, but it's the amount of rushing that they do. Somebody's going to get open. So, if they could get him up there and get him involved in some more of that, I think he'd take a next step. If he doesn't take the next step, I think we start seeing him slide down the board a little bit because he's never going to reach that plateau of a top 10 and stay there. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him, some more playmaking abilities.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move to Cleveland. All right. So looking at that Browns defense, I mean, they showed up last year in a huge way. Yeah. Is there a more important defensive player on that team than Myles Garrett?
No, but they improved the shit out of that secondary. Sorry, Gary. I thought we're on my show. I'm swearing.
That's all right.
The secondary looks great, though, right? And they got the pass rush. Like, woo!
That they're going to have a top 5 defense this year if everybody stays healthy. Right. I really believe that they're going to boom it. Did you hear where Clowney is just eating it up?
Yes.
And he's doing it against the number 1 offensive line. That's the difference. Now, when we get to the Bengals, I'll explain something about this.
Yeah.
Because when you're on the field and you're practicing your first teams against each other. So competition means a lot. So camp reports can be so deceiving. You hear this dude's lighting it up, and you find out he's practicing all the time against the number 1 or the worst offensive line in the thing in the league. So that's really impressive.
So we have Garrett, we have Clowney. Is there anybody else who you guys are saying is a must roster on this defense?
Oh, nice.
Must roster.
I mean, at their cost, I mean, I could definitely name about 4.
Sure. Yeah. Denzel Ward. Absolutely. We got to see what happens with the safeties, right? Like, how's that going to pan out with Delpit and Johnson? They're getting Greedy Williams back too, I believe, healthy.
He just was activated. And don't forget, Ronnie Harrison is still there.
Yeah, right. Wow. So there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. So it's the same thing with the Giants secondary, right? Everyone's all in. Oh, they got Peppers and Ryan and they got McKinney. Great. Who's going to score the points, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not all of them every week. That's not, especially with freaking Blake Martinez there. That's not how it works, right? So same deal here in Cleveland. Like, there's a lot of talent everywhere. They're going to be a great real life defense. But for IDP, I think we need to see how it plays out a few weeks before really nailing it down.
That's really an interesting point.
Gary,
they are good.
Now, Gary, when you look at the linebacker room, are there any linebackers that you are focusing on?
Well, Anthony Walker. I mean, he's wearing the green dot. He's going to get production by default. If nothing else, folks, he's going to be their every down guy. It's why he's brought in. It's already been stated. He's hurt right now, I believe, but he's supposed to be back in a few days, knee injury or something. Nothing too serious. But rest of them, no. I don't know. And I'm only paying for, I don't know. I have Walker. I have Walker right inside my top 32, really. Maybe a little higher. I can't remember. But I like Walker a lot this year.
Is there any hope for Taki or Jacob Phillips?
I don't know. Maybe Phillips, the way they have it listed right now, but like we were saying earlier, just with the way they're in nickel all the time and pass defense basically all the time, because that's what the league is now. If you're not that one linebacker, there are very few teams that have more than one linebacker these days, unfortunately.
No.
And I would be remiss to not talk about their rookie, right? Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Is he just a deep stash for this year, or do we think there's a possibility that he could put up some numbers?
I mean,
there's always a possibility.
He's probably going to profile for it. He's probably capable of doing it. But the biggest ask question for me is, are the Browns going to use him the right traditional way? Is he capable of staying on the field in nickel packages or whatever they're running? Can he defend the pass? It really depends on them. It's, to me, his odds of producing should be good. On paper, they look great. But you got to wait and see what they do with him. Is he going to play every down? Is he, look at Mac Wilson in the past. He was hyped up. He didn't do anything out there. Who else was there? After Christian Kursky, before Mac Wilson. Well, Tacky's never worked out, but he's more of a middle inside linebacker. Yeah. I was thinking there was another one that they tried out there.
Malcolm Smith was there, I think.
They got Jacob Phillips, right? That's who we was talking about.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I don't know. I could be wrong, but either way, they just need to. We need to find out if they're going to put him out there to produce, especially the first year. I don't know. It's $1 million question to me.
It is the $1 million question. Well, let's stay in Ohio, which is something I don't think anybody's ever said before. But let's go over to Cincinnati. Gary, what is going on with the Bengals?
Okay, so we're not going to go in any certain order. So I'm going to start out. Just read probably an hour before the show. They have handed the red dot or the green dot to Logan Wilson, and he's been playing the middle inside linebacker position. It's fairly assumed that he should start seeing a lot more of the snaps this year. He only played like 35% last year. Yep. He did okay. He didn't flash. He didn't really have a huge opportunity. I can't remember if he might have got hurt, but that's kind of a big deal. And they seem to have just turned that defense over to him. He might not be the best, but if he can run that defense and not embarrass himself, that's production by default. So I went and I instantly added him where I needed a depth linebacker. As soon as I read it,
any 3-down linebacker is a must roster.
Yep.
Yep.
And
you can hit it.
We were waiting for that all last year. I remember writing about that week after week, just keeping an eye on it. Like, when's he going to get his shot? And it never happened last year. But you're right. And it feels similar to the Jordan Brooks thing right now, right? They're in similar situations. Like last year, it never happened. But everyone's like, it's set in stone. It's got to be this year, right? So I don't know. Hopefully it does.
Yeah. It's just another one of those things. Cincinnati has the same history over the last few years, as Cleveland does. It's like I was telling the guys before we started recording that it's basically, if you look at the head coach was the offensive coordinator of the Rams. Well, he's brought that same form of defense over. That's why you have Jesse Bates absorbing all this production in the middle, just like John Johnson did. And this is a branch off of back when the Rams first hired Wade Phillips. He brought that system in. And there's been a branch of so he was the offensive coordinator over for the Rams. It didn't matter. I believe he brought one of the defensive assistants with him. He's implicating the same one. So if they got something even that resembled the Rams defense out of this somehow by picking up Hendrickson and you got Hubbard on the other side, DJ Reader he was actually pretty darn good when he played last year. If he's coming off injury.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
You got Von Bell sitting there just absorbing tackles, along with the has to be the own dude overall. I mentioned Logan Wilson, but your main dude has got to be Bates. I mean, he's just where it goes to, and it's based off of this defensive scheme that's just been passed down through since Wade Phillips, which the Rams did kind of dirty. Got him for a couple of years, absorbed it.
He still doesn't have a job. That's messed up. Wade Phillips is the man. I love him.
He's got to be 95 years old.
Oh, he's getting up there. But whatever. Dick LeBeau coached until he was a skeleton, for Christ's sakes. Come on.
Yeah.
Have him up in the booth going, hey.
Well, you even think about some of those old Colts coaches like Howard Mudd. Like, how long did he coach? Like, he coached forever.
Howard Mudd.
I loved Howard Mudd. All right. So defensive line, you mentioned a few, Gary. DJ Reader's there. Hubbard is there. Trey Hendrickson. Any of these guys, are we rostering them? Are we starting them?
Sam Hubbard, absolutely. Hendrickson, I don't know if I believe it. I think that was more the product of the Saints having a ton of talent around him. And he had such amazing efficiency last year. It's hard to replicate that because he didn't play a ton. He just landed his pressures. And traditionally that doesn't happen year after year. That's like a statistical aberration. Like if it happens again this year, I'll be surprised. Right. But Hubbard has led the league in combined tackles as a defensive end 3 years in a row, including missing games last year. That's something he does. He gets tackles. I don't know why or how. I don't care. If I'm getting those 5 combined tackles a game as a floor, anything else is just frosting on top, is a cherry on top, right? Yeah, that's a good floor every game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he was just hurt last year. He got hurt with a pec injury, missed a few games, come back. I think he played 13 games total, but he come back. I don't think he was full force. He's still, if I remember right, reciting his stats, he still had plenty of pressures. He just wasn't getting to the quarterback with only a couple sacks, I think, if I remember right.
Right. The tackles were still there. The sacks were not.
Right. Yeah. But now he's going to be coming in there. He should be the the blind side rusher. He should be pretty productive. I'd like to see at least double-digit sacks come out of him this year.
That'd be great.
I think we're projecting him for 9 on Gridiron Ratings with our draft guide, and I think he can reach the 9 and get across that threshold to 10. I think he can do it this year. And if you add that up, he's a poor man's TJ Watt edge rusher, just for the fact of the combined tackles that John mentioned.
Now, any of these rookies on the Bengals, are we stashing any of them, or Joseph Osai, I think Cam Sample, any of those guys we're interested in?
I looked at it.
Yeah, I don't have much of a Osai was defensive line, right?
Yeah,
he's an edge rusher. He's a lighter guy.
I was getting ready to mention him too. Maybe for a dynasty stash, see how Hendrickson works out or something. Hey, pros file, because everything I kept reading, Osai or Osai, what was it?
I just say Osai. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually asked my phone before this. I've totally forgotten. I was throwing darts at the screen, right? So, anyways, he's really been impressing in camp. But the funny thing is, every time you read something about, the defensive coordinator told Osai and the defensive line, because I think he's still technically a linebacker, whether it's like maybe a strong side linebacker. I don't know, a rush specialist. I'm not.
I mean, he's going to be a
sure.
Designated pass rusher. He's not that's his gig.
Yeah, right. But is it from like what position? Is he going to become a DL?
Again, isn't this the issue?
Yeah,
Right,
this
right.
is the issue, and as a whole, this pass rushing class did not like perk my ears up.
No.
You know, so I don't really have many of any of them, to be
No.
honest with you.
Right. There's some
Yeah,
that
I
got
was
a few
definitely
good
letting.
opportunities. That's about it. I mean, the talent it's there, but it's not. You know, we didn't get a Myles Garrett this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, or a Chase Young or a Nick
Right.
Bosa or any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
All right, gentlemen. Anybody else on the
Yes. Trey
lowly
Hickerson.
Bengals?
Yes.
You want to talk about Trey?
Yes. That's overhyped. Is I think John hit on that earlier. I just want to make sure that was that segment, because if not, we were going to make sure. Now, okay, granted. Now, earlier I was talking about the playing the offensive line, defensive line during practice and everything else. So the reports are right now that Hendrickson is looking good, making all these moves. Hubbard's looking good and solid. He's got a rookie right tackle, I think he's been going against, and this is the worst offensive line in the league last year.
Yep.
So there was a lot of hype when Trey first signed with them. And I just hope that some people have pumped the brakes, because the guy, I mean, he'll probably be all right, but Carl Lawson didn't really get the job done from that position. Hubbard did. And I mean, the year before, when Dunlap was on the blind side and Hubbard was rushing from the strong side, he got the combined tackles, and he also ended up with like 8 sacks in 2019. So I mean, there's a reason we keep talking about Hubbard. Hubbard is his rookie season. He didn't really have hardly any combined tackles at all, but he did manage to get a hold of 6 sacks. So, I mean, that was something to start with. But when it comes to Hendrickson, it's just, you got to think of the level of competition he's going. I'm bringing this up as a camp darling. Let's see him do it against a lot of these offensive lines. I think they got Cleveland. Cleveland's number 1 offensive line. They play Kansas City. They play the Lions. They play Green Bay. They play Pittsburgh and Baltimore. They're both top 20 offensive lines. So let's see what they do against the competition this year. Before we go crowning somebody, I think that, as John might agree, what I'm trying to get at is that Hubbard has more of a history to show.
Yeah, I trust him. Yeah.
Right. And he's going to have the better opportunity at the weak side or the blind side pass rusher, So that's about all I wanted to say. Just pump the brakes on him.
I love it. I love it. And we're seeing these stories out of that camp that Burrow can't complete like dump off passes because he's running for his friggin' life. That's not great, right? Like, so you're winning against that. Like,
right.
Okay.
Could you imagine Pittsburgh every year? They're like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's like the old like Bugs Bunny cartoons where they're just looking at that line like they're turkey legs, and they're like, we're going to go get some of that.
Right. Everybody, all defensive coordinators, their little pad on the side. He's going to go rush, blitz, rush, blitz. They're just going to continuously send their guys inside. You'd be crazy not to.
Yep.
Run. It's a running down. I don't care. Send them.
Mm-hmm.
Send them every time. Every time.
Yep.
All right. Now that we touched on Hendrickson, anybody else?
Well, I mean, Myles Garrett's my DE1 always and forever. What do you guys think? Who you got at DE1 this year?
I ended up putting Garrett up there.
Okay. Yeah.
Had to go
JJ?
with it.
You got to go Garrett or Young.
Yeah.
I mean, they have great people next to them.
I put Young way down there. I put Young down quite a bit. Not
but
considerably.
But Young's price is skyrocketing for the dynasty factor, right? Like you're getting young year 2, and you're getting a decade of ridiculous destruction and production.
Hopefully,
right.
Hopefully, if he continues the ascension.
Right. So I'm going to flip on that what John said earlier. I'm a prove it type of guy.
Yeah.
Do it again. Do it more consistently and do it again. I don't
So
know.
then
And
you're
I'm a High
easily
State fan too. So,
okay.
oh yeah, I love High State Buckeyes in my team.
Oh, that's
Yep.
right. Maybe I shouldn't make Ohio jokes now.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't know any Pennsylvania jokes.
Well, that's because we are a joke. Oh no, PA, come on.
Right.
Come on. I'm sorry, buddies. You got a friend in Pennsylvania. All right. Well, if there is no other players to talk about, it's time for final thoughts. Now, make sure. Oh, go ahead.
No, I liked it. That's a great segment. Go ahead.
All right. I was just going to say, make sure you're following John at Orangeman3142 on Twitter and listen to the DF Triple S podcast. John, any final thoughts?
Pleasure as always, gentlemen. JJ, it's nice meeting you. We've talked on the Twitter sphere, but good to chop it up. Gary, once again, good to see you, and thanks for having me on, fellas. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great having you as always, and of course, the OG of IDP can be found at the IDP Tipster on Twitter. And subscribe to Gridiron Ratings for all of his IDP analysis. Gary, any final thoughts?
No, I'm ready for bed. A little under the weather. Throat's all messed up.
Well, we're going to get you there in a second. Ladies and gentlemen,
good night, folks.
I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter. You can find me hosting a Dirty O podcast over at Rider Dynasty. Thank you to John for joining us. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Special thank you to Gary for inviting me to join this team.
Excited to have you, JJ.
Well, make sure, though, you turn in on Tuesday for the Tuesday edition hosted by Roto Heat Craig. And don't forget to subscribe below for a chance to win the Gridiron Ratings Playbook. I just received mine and can't wait to tear into it tomorrow. And remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Good night, everyone.
I cut that too early.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.